Well, we've been at it for 4 years now, Chris.
Yeah,
Like this in
I
November
know.
is our our
That's
month.
crazy.
There's a lot of good things that happen in November that make you think about service, think about what's going on. November's always been a great time for me. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, but also Veterans Day. I've always appreciated that, being a veteran, things like that.
Right.
But, one of your veteran broadcasters is not going to be with us today. Scott is
No,
out.
no, no, no. He's got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, but as a fellow alumni of our last organization, Scott is taking on a much bigger role in the
Right.
alumni association there for the retirees, and they hold these monthly meetings. They're called
Yeah.
Smoke and
Smoke
Eggs,
an egg.
which is I always imagined it because you and I left as soon as we retired. We went to other places, so the only thing I get is an email inviting me to it, and I'm like, I can't make the commute or whatever. And then I remember the places that they're having it at are kind of funny. It makes us think
I still
about
get the email, like all those emails, and like, hey, come to the city hall. So and so is getting so and so is getting promoted, and I get some of these emails that, hey, go into this, and I'm like, hey, guys, I've been gone for 4 years. Maybe you want to get me out of your data system.
Right. I
mean, and I can't make smoking eggs. I'm in Florida. Sorry.
Yeah, right. And I appreciate that. Well, first and foremost, you're not getting eggs at the place they're having it at, and you definitely can't smoke there either. So it's kind of funny that it's called that. Never understood the nexus to that. But Scott's a big supporter of it. He likes to go. I always imagined it, Chris, like, because we never were there, we never saw it. Like, it was like a big Mitch Miller sing along, like everybody's wearing
with those sweaters.
Yeah, cable knit sweaters, and they're singing like barbershop quartet. And I was like, well, Scott is a baritone, so
yes,
maybe they could use him. He's like definitely likes a lot of those.
Danny
songs.
Boy,
Sweet Adeline and stuff like that. Things along those lines.
Scott with that straw hat and those little things. Like, I mean, I use my sleeves for working a calculator. He's doing it as a baritone.
Right.
Sweet Adeline.
But yeah, the garter belt around the sleeve. Yeah, that kind of a thing. But I'm sure they probably appreciate Scott's company because Scott,
sure.
Our listeners know that Scott's not a smart ass. He doesn't bring up anything.
Oh,
he wasn't that way when he was on the job. He never made pointed comments to people, anything like that. So I could see why maybe they were more willing to invite him than me and you because
they don't want to hear my shit.
Right. But anyway,
especially as you get older. I have this stuff that comes out of my mouth, and Debbie looks at me like, "What?" I'm like, I don't have time. Like I'm on the back nine, so I don't have time to sugarcoat stuff. I mean, like, hey, it is what it is. No, you're dating a guy, he's a douchebag. Sorry, he come to dinner. No, he can't. Sorry.
Right. I am more along the lines of it's like, while I was there, I had a set group of people that I kind of ran with. It's just how it worked. We weren't that big of an organization, but I would feel awkward going back because I'd be like, all of a sudden, you guys want to talk to me? I mean, I guess it's cool, but we're joking about it, but with all due respect to it, it's also a thing that's one of the few things in our work where they make you feel like you still matter. They reach out to you. They're reaching out to you. They want you to come back. They want you to be a part of it. Which, being a veteran police officer, obviously November has Veterans Day or Remembrance Day if you're listening to Europe or whatever. But like the idea of like being a veteran from the military, which I am, and being a veteran police officer, takes on a different connotation when you say that to people, don't you think?
It does nowadays.
The idea of like being a veteran, everybody's like, you can do no wrong as a veteran, no matter what. Like, luckily, most of the people in our world don't ever serve, have no idea what it's about, what it takes. When you're a police officer and you're a veteran police officer, people are like, "Oh, thank you for your service," with like a weary eye, like, what's wrong with you? And they don't quite realize, like. There's a lot of similarities between the two. There should be a lot of separation between the two. But one of the things I always thought was like it was unique to compare was like being a veteran in the police world and then being a veteran from the military. Obviously, you get so much more benefit wise, like respect after the fact in your service in the military. And it didn't really matter what you did, like what your job was. I mean, like the civilian world at times seems to think like everybody thinks you're like living in a foxhole. As soon as you join up, and there's such a small percentage of people.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Right. It smells like victory.
But easy, horseman.
In the police world, everybody just assumes you're like, if you're a veteran police officer, like you and I did, we never left the ranks. Like we stayed officers the entire time. We had some unique jobs that we had, like training officer and canine officer, drug detectives and things like that. But I never decided to take rank because it always made me feel dirty. I don't know about you, but
Right.
the military, it's the opposite. They're like, you're up or
Right.
out. So you can't stay like a spec 7 like they used to have. Like you're a specialist in your field and could stay enlisted for 20 years and never take any rank. They changed that and said, well, if you're going to stay a specialist, you now need to become an NCO or a sergeant, and they forced you out. Our world, it's like, no, the police world is like, you can stay a cop for 20 years, and
Right.
what that brings, I think,
Right.
is the idea that you're seeing a lot of bad shit as a cop. I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
at a certain point in that world, when you start taking rank, whether you're an NCO and become a senior NCO and you move further away from the war and the battle, I know you're still leading. I get it. But the bottom line is like, same thing applies to officers. You're a young clue bag lieutenant. You start to become a captain. You're a company commander. And then from beyond that, you're not really there at the tip of the spear. Now, there are leaders that are out there doing that kind of stuff. But that's the inversion of the police world, too. The further you go within rank, the further away you leave the job, don't you think?
Well, but that, and then the other thing too is like, I think the difference between being a police officer and moving up in rank and I never served. I told that story when the Marines showed up to my house. But I
chased
never
him off the porch. Yeah,
chased him off the. He did.
because
He chased like
because
he did.
Yeah.
He did. He did. And then those are my dad's exact words. Whatever you want to do after you go to college, you do, but not now.
Yeah,
Not
right,
now.
right,
But
right.
but growing up with Marine Corps, Marine Corps Sherwin, it was just a different atmosphere. It's like when you move up in the armed forces, there's a lot more. According to him, there's a lot more. And this is field tested, is what he's talking about. Like lieutenant down, lieutenant sergeant, sergeant. There's a lot more communication in regards to, hey, you can't do that. You got to do this, or what do you think about this, or we got to do this. Now you're talking to Vietnam era. You know what I'm saying? So this was survival, and it's the same thing on the street. It obviously was nothing like Vietnam, but it was still, you're trying to do this the most best effective way where nobody gets hurt or killed. And he goes, and what I found is in reading books, and my dad is at the helm, is that we in the police department, when you get rank, it's like everybody becomes afraid. Oh, we can't bring that up, or oh, this isn't.
I don't want to make them mad. I don't want to upset him.
Nobody wants to make them mad.
Right.
Well,
and it was common. It was common. To your point, it was common in the military world. It's funny that you say that. That was like when I first got in. There were still guys from Vietnam when I first got in the Army in the early '90s. And they would openly talk about like lieutenants getting fragged all the time. I mean, talk about feedback. If they don't like you, they'll kill you in the field. And it kind of
there's no email survey.
Yeah, right. I'm not saying that was right, but it definitely kept you honest. Now it would be hard to frag a lieutenant in the police world because they're house cats. A lot of them. I'm not saying every lieutenant. I'm not trying to piss off everybody. There are a lot of great lieutenants out there. One of the things I did find in the police world, when you have a great lieutenant and they're out there and they're trying just as hard as anybody else, male, female, doesn't matter what their deal is. There's some really great ones out there, but what happens with the other lieutenants that have come up through the police leadership world, as opposed to the military world, is that the other lieutenants try to frag you, not your officers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not openly said. I mean, it's like, although we're paramilitary in the police world, which I think in a lot of ways now is infinitely harder than the military, not because that the military is like easy compared to police work. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that the support that you get from the public, and that you can never question what a veteran's doing, no matter what is going on. And I've seen just as many fuck ups in the military that do really, really bad things to each other, their families, to lack of fidelity, all the stuff you see in the police world I saw in the military world, sometimes tenfold. It doesn't seem to get the same heat with the public. So the accountability aspect of that, plus it's also way closer to the politics that you're dealing with. Like in a municipality, you are way, way closer to the politics associated with the city that you work for. But the work is hard. It really is. Mentally, police work is way, way harder. I don't care what anybody says, because
you're right.
You go overseas to serve people, so what's going on there doesn't come to our shores. When you're a police officer, I firmly believe the fact is that you are there seeing the people that we love, and I know define as love as like, I want to hang around with you, I want to be your friend. I love you, I don't like you. I say to that people all the time, and people laugh about that. But I do. I'm willing to die for you. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you like me. I don't care if you like me. But if something bad happens right now, you and I could have been arguing with each other. I'd say to a civilian, I go, but right now, if something turned and I had to defend you with my life, I'd do that. And I'm not trying to say I'm a hero, but most cops would. I mean,
Would,
and
right.
people don't understand that. And that's hard on you because you can't escape it as a cop. Like in the military, you're like, well, now I'm going to go get stationed in Okinawa and meet a bunch of geisha girls, and that's going to be cool
Right.
too. Or after that, I can maybe get stationed in Hawaii because I was stationed in a really shitty place called Texas or something like that after a while.
Right.
And you're not seeing it. It's much more, kept from the public. And I was thinking about that the other day at Veterans Day. I was like, that'd be a good topic to talk about with people, to say, like, you know, we both serve you in some way, shape, or form, but don't confuse the two, and realize that there's way more support for the military in this world, and the benefits that you get when you leave it.
Yep.
When you're considered veteran from it, you can be a veteran police officer like Chris and I'd say to our listeners, and he and I never left really the road in the rank and file of getting work done in that
Right.
sense, and have nowhere near the respect of a guy that stopped doing the work a long time ago and became a staff officer because he has major or colonel on his collar, or
Right.
first sergeant or sergeant major on their collar or sleeve. They're held in high esteem, and the version of that is like, for cops, you're like, you left the road like as soon as you could take rank, and you have no idea what's going on out here, and it's a
Right.
loss of credibility for people. So it's something we wanted to point out and talk about, especially in this great month of
Yeah,
November.
and but and also, when you see, a veteran from the military as compared to a veteran from the police department, I mean, I think everybody has these visions of grandeur that, they're in the battlefield and all this other stuff, and cops don't see that and whatever else. I think there's a disillusion in regards to. I would say that we both share the same thing. I mean, one's defending the country, one's defending a city or a county or a state,
Community, right? Yeah, right.
or a community. But I just think that, comparably, I think they both see and live, some shitty things, and it's just, I don't know where the separation came from. Maybe because it's it's the Army or the Navy or whatever. But it's just, I was thinking on Veterans Day because down here, we work with a lot of veterans. I mean, it just seems like
in the South, you definitely do. You have a lot more people that serve and are
right,
also police officers at the same time, which is a tremendous stress on them. I
right,
mean? Like, hey, when my day's off, or I got to go to drill now. You know what I mean? For 2 days,
yeah,
I just worked 10 days straight. Now I got to go do drill, and then I get 2 weeks off in the summer for drill. You know what I mean? And I'm away from my family and all the pressure and stress for that.
yeah. Well, when I got my car, it was there was little marine things everywhere, to the point the screw caps on the license plate had the marine emblem on and stuff like that. So I got to talking to the guy's car I got and everything, and we kind of got into this lengthy discussion about when you bring veterans, just naturally have a what's the word, they have a structure. Okay.
Right.
And some of and just like everybody else, they have a structure. Some of them are black and white structured. Some of them are they can see the gray area, and it's just, I just think it works well together. But I just think when you're coming to a sheriff's department, I think that the reason that we have so many is because it does seem to be, when you're south of the Mason-Dixon line, there's a lot more people that want to serve in the military or do serve in the military, and they come here. And I also think when you're talking about areas where your backup is 35, 40 minutes away, or you really have to talk to somebody for a long time, and I just think that you see those veterans, both male and female, have some type of structure when and some type of plan as they're going through, as compared to the some of the guys that we worked with. Not that they were bad, not that they were bad policemen, but you could see the different, the thought process going through their head. But down here, boy, I mean, your uniform, you better be squared away to some of these guys. I'm like, bro, take it easy. Like, your name tag's crooked. No, I guess so.
Right.
Are you going to fix it? Yeah, sure. Okay.
Some of it is helpful in that sense. Like, if you've never been exposed to that, that does help you, because the civilian world, like, they relate, like you're in uniform or whatever, and how you look in uniform. The median age in the police world versus the military world is, you're, God, don't you wish you could look like you were an 18-year-old for the rest of your life in uniform? That'd be awesome. But
right.
that doesn't work that way. The median age in law enforcement is much higher because we stay longer. You know what I mean? Like things along those lines. And we all see pictures. You were sending those pictures out a couple of weeks ago. You and Scott were sending those pictures in our group too. What we looked like when we were younger, and we were all like laughing. Like,
oh yeah,
my God,
yeah. I said,
hair,
I'll crack those out every once in a while, and they'll come across. Yeah.
Like, was I actually that skinny and that stupid looking? You know what I mean? But we were older. This was the second profession for us. Like you and I both worked in the business world for quite some time, which I would say does a better job of holding you accountable for a bottom line, but it doesn't really develop leadership like the military does. And the police world, I'd say of all three of them, it does the worst job of developing leadership. Now, I have great leaders. Don't get me wrong. I really do. And I think some of that has to do with down here has to do with the military and how the military demands that. These guys at a certain point will be like, hey, I'm going to stop calling bullshit here. And I'm going to be like, yeah, I messed that up and I'm not living up to my expectations and I will square that away and I'll do whatever. But also in the same sense, a lot of times people have to serve down here because it's a socioeconomic reason. There's no doubt in the Southeast, you can do studies on this, and I'm not knocking my pay either. But I'm saying that if you're starting out and like most places where you have to work in and around a city, it's really expensive in the United States now to live near a city, an urban center. So people are like, well, I got to augment my income somehow. And a lot of people go and serve in the reserve or the National Guard and stuff like that. So that's great. That helps you with that. But then when we have an emergency in that region, the guard could actually call up all their guys and say, you're all coming. And now the police department, if they've hired a lot of military types, are like, well, we don't have enough people, so everybody's going to be called out. So investigations will stop. No specialized assignments are going to be doing anything. So a lot of the quality of life is impacted by that. But, still in the end, I'd still say that the police world has not caught up to what the military world has been doing a while in the realm of like taking care of their people when they go through horrible things and giving them breaks along those lines. Because look, you fill a spot and it's budgeted per like the size and the largesse of our military allows for people like, hey, we're not going to put this guy here. We're going to move him to a different place. A lot of those things. But the flip side of that is that it's like, there's not as much stability for you. Like you're constantly moving. Your family has to be very, willing to be like, if you marry someone, then they're like, hey, well, now I got a job here and now you're going to move and leave again. Well, you signed up for this, you know that. Well, that's hard on you too. But the same sense, like where we're like, it was like, hey, I'm here, I'm stuck. I can't really leave because I hate starting over as a cop. Because every time you start over, it's like, you're never a prophet in your own land. Like they get you twofold. I don't know if they did this to you, but like wherever I went after I left where we were in Illinois, people were like, oh, you've been on the job for 20 years. You must know it. I go, do you think I know everything? What are you talking about? I barely know how to sign on to these systems down here. Like, you got it, right? I'm like, I got like how to talk to somebody on the street. I got officer safety, but I don't got all of these new things that we got to deal with, like body cams and downloads and all of this crap technology wise that a lot of people go on with. So it was always like, at least with the military, like you're going to a new place and somebody's always like, hey, you're new here. I know you got rank and stuff like that, but you're new here. Let us welcome you on board because you rotate every 4 years, whatever, especially if you're active and things like that. Or rank wise, you have to move out of a position based upon up or out. And I was like, yeah, it's so different in so many levels. And you and I were two guys that never took rank. And it was Scott. He's not here to defend himself because he sold out and became a sergeant.
Sold out. Sell out.
I had to stop talking to him for like,
I know,
about like 5 minutes because it was like really weird. I was like, I can't talk to you. Right.
Yeah. Are you giving me an order? No.
You can't. You're not the boss of me. Oh, actually, you are. So
yeah. Yeah, I guess you are.
It's fun in November because I always like, this is when it always wakes this up in me. I was like, it would be really nice if there was some things that we could get from the military world for police officers. And that would be like what happens to you when you retire, when you leave this work. We have left one and gone somewhere else, but like eventually we're going to be like Scott, who left the world completely and we're getting this pseudo, police sense.
Did you see those hot dogs he gave us? Did he send you those pictures of those road dogs he had the other?
Yeah.
Like, bro, you're. I mean, I'm like, how does your body absorb that?
Right.
Jesus.
He's super resilient. It's like
that's got to be that's probably because he was a sergeant. You and I would die.
Absolutely. But you also hear about like, hey, I served in combat. I mean, it wasn't, oh my God, I'm not Audie Murphy or anything like that. But the bottom line is that like, if you serve in a theater of war, you get certain benefits that when you are looking at retirement and burnout, that the military can also help you as well. Like, hey, I got to worry about medical benefits. How do these cost? And we all know that Obamacare has not provided what it promised to provide us. I'm not saying that because, I hate Barack Obama and Democrats. That's not the case. If you think
I do, but it doesn't.
to me, I'm indifferent in that sense. Like, but I look at it and I say, stop telling us that this was going to be better for us, because it's actually more expensive. You get lower quality, and the insurance companies are making windfall profits. But none of them are saying they're going to tax that rich group of people, because they all hold the power up there by, bipartisan wise, to fix our medical situation. And we care more about giving it to folks that have not done anything for our system, like veterans and stuff like that. Like, when the government shut down, there were a lot of things that affected the VA and all sorts of stuff. But the bottom line is that, you get benefits if you've served in that capacity. You have to give something up like that. And I was like, well, unless you're like an NYPD or some really, really big Northeast type union, or maybe even LA or something like that, medical benefits are a huge concern to you when you're about to retire. So we can either stay on the job and be an old guy that doesn't want to fight with anybody because nobody respects the police anymore. And if I do get injured, there's only so many jobs, because they're civilianizing the police world with what used to be good jobs for older cops that went indoors, like we talked about with Kathy Diaz a couple episodes of, like, where did all the old cops go, kind of a thing. Well, those jobs aren't there for us anymore. So you got to make the decision to stay out on the street. Well, if I get injured and I have really bad benefits, like a lot of coppers do, dependent upon the size of the organization, I got to worry about who's going to pay for this. How is this going to work? You know what I mean? Like, I can't afford this insurance monthly without having a decent job.
It's like 26 grand.
Yeah, it's crazy
a year.
And, you're a veteran, like I said, and you've got combat props. You get VA benefits that are paid for. Like, you get a check for like $15. Like, when you went in and you got man, you put me inside of this radioactive machine and it only costs $15. I mean, if that was when I was in the civilian world on my agency's benefits, and it's not the agency's fault. This is what the insurance world is doing to everybody.
Yeah.
And police agencies have to kind of manage this cost in cities as well. It was like an $1,100 bill. I'm like, I don't. Do you think I get $1,100 of disposable income with 3 teenage boys?
Right.
And, and I live near a metropolitan area where rent and housing isn't cheap. And those are the things that, you wish could transcend, like cities and states would look at, like, hey, these guys are doing a job similar to what the military does for our nation, but police officers, first responders, firefighters, medics, they're doing a job that's quite similar. Because what happened on September 11th, when we were attacked on our own soil in our lifetime, the people that paid the ultimate price on that day were mostly first responders. 300 firefighters getting killed in a single incident. Like, if that happened in a battle, like in Iraq, 300 people dying in a single day. Like, you'd have to go back to Khobar Towers or something like that to reach those kind of numbers for the Marine Corps. That would be unheard of. People would still be losing their minds about it. But you look at that and you say, well, the next time it happens, we're not going to be attacked by a conventional army, because our military is too great, thanks to the Air Force, Space Force, all these things that are going to see these things coming. It's going to come in terror cells, like it happened in Israel, like never expected it.
Right.
Guys in low-level technology are going to finish. Well, who's going to die first in all that stuff is first responders. And, the city will bury you, it'll be mournful and things like that. Like Dallas had that circumstance. But where's the setup for my family? Where's the setup for, hey, when I retire, I want medical benefits that I get similar to I get through the VA? That's a cost that I think should be factored in what we do. But people look at that and go, how dare you say that? How dare you say that as a first responder? I'd be like, I'd say, hey, look, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a knife in my mouth kind of guy, snake eater. But the bottom line is I've done both. And I think being a cop is way more impactful to the average American. I had kids that come to me and say, hey, what should I do? I'm a criminal justice major. I want to serve my country. I go, you want to serve your country? Become a cop. Yeah. That's where you see the most direct impact to your community and what you can do. And be a good cop. Don't be a dog ass. And live by a military standard if you've done that. Well, I don't think the rest of society sees it that way. We support your service. I'm hearing that a lot more. That's great that civilians feel that. Start voting for the people that will do the same thing, is what I say. I'm not complaining.
No, I agree.
There's a noted disparity in the two. And the work and what we provide for you as a civilian is pretty similar, and in some cases way more impactful. You know what I mean?
Well, it's impactful, and it's daily. It's like it's for 20 years straight. Like when you're in the military, you move around, do some stuff. You have options. But here, ultimately,
you
I mean,
an STD.
But in the military, you get to grow those goofy mustaches. Yeah, right.
Like if you're a sailor, you definitely do. I mean, if you don't, there's no props. I mean, you're not even a sailor. I don't think they I think they changed the color of the rank on your sleeve if you had an STD or not. I don't know what. I think that's what that's about.
It goes from blue to red.
Yeah, right. It's really similar. Naval tradition's really old and steeped in a lot of stuff. I mean, the Brits and rum sodomy and the lash. Anyway.
Yeah, But I mean, I do. I think it's from day to day, and I, it used to be that they would take their benefits until age 65 or whatever. But it just it's a cost prohibitive um, idea as compared, for cities and stuff like that. But um, is what they're saying. But I just think ultimately, I mean, when you compare these two, and then you have people who are veterans, and you have people who are veterans of the military, and you have veterans of the city, or the police department, and or the first responders, I would say. I just think that people just have to realize. I do believe that they're one and the same, and they just don't get the same respect. But I do think that as first responders, nurses, and us, and firefighters, and EMS, and et cetera, et cetera. I just think that you're doing it daily. I mean, an army, if you're not in the act of war or in the act of battle, I mean, you train a lot and you're getting ready for it, but we do the battle every day. And I think that has to be, that needs something that needs to be recognized. But I don't know I don't know if it's, because they say it's the United States Army or Marines or whatever, and you're just the police. I don't know where that misconception, came about, honestly.
And to be honest with you, I don't know why our world tolerated it, because how many people that across the board, like post Vietnam, went on to become police officers? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
went
yeah.
on to become, like we said, where you serve in the country, you could have a X amount, a whole lot more service members, whether it be former or currently serving as a reservist or a guardsman. Uh, you know, that mentality is tolerated. Again, there are pros and cons to both. I said, the militarization of the police. There'd be some things that we could gain from the military world and the police world. But there'd also be some things that I think the military world could better understand about us, because I worked at a school that, I went to a military school, and
Right.
a lot of, former military come back to that school to be teachers or, administrators or whatever there. And I was always got this impression that a lot of people were like, you're just a cop. You don't really know what it is. So even though we produced quite a few police officers from my college, it was always like that mentality, like, oh, like, I was in the military for 20 years. You just were a cop, and it's so different. And it's like, and
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, the condescension was there from what I witnessed. I'm not saying that maybe everybody experienced that, but the bottom line was like, you have no concept of what we have to go out and deal with. You have no concept
Uh-huh.
on what cops have to deal with. And this idea that, like, oh, I had nothing else better to do than that. Well, sleep soundly, sir. You know what I mean? You're not the only one that's
Right.
out there going, bumping back to the scary things in the night that you feel you do just simply because you're in the military, and you're peeling potatoes. You know what I mean? Kind of a
Right.
thing.
Right.
And it would always kind of annoy me. And I thought that, like, maybe those two worlds could come together a little bit more about, like, as part of a warrior or protector class, that, we're good to each other, because there are folks that come out of the military that get it. They get it. It
Yes.
doesn't matter
True.
what
Absolutely.
rank they are.
Yep.
And there's also
Yep.
people that are in the military that never left that get it. But there's a
Right.
lot of people that believe the hype. Like, yo, thank you for your service. A veteran can do no wrong. I love the whole, like, is this how you treat a veteran? I'm like, what? I'm a veteran too. Like, you think because you're a veteran, you're allowed to do whatever the fuck you want to do out here? You can
Right.
get as drunk as you want, spit
Yep.
on people, fight because you got PTS. Dude, get over it. That's crap. Like, this
Right.
whole idea that, this is how you treat a veteran. I've heard that. Dude, I've lost count of the amount of times I've heard that. And I always
Right.
spit back to him, well, I'm a veteran too. Is this how you treat a veteran? And then they're
Yeah.
almost like, ooh, circular logic. You know what I mean? Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know,
Right.
man. I've been in the shit. And then you start asking guys questions about the shit. And
Right.
it's usually like, dude, that doesn't sound like too shitty to me, Green Zone. You know what I mean? And again,
Right.
there's a lot of
And
things, and I'm being sarcastic. A lot of people are like, whatever. But
sure.
I love the comments on social media, Chris, about, like, people comment on having knowledge of neither world, about how the police thinks they're badasses and they all got
Right.
these, Freddie complex. You know what percentage of police officers are former military? Quite a bit. So you got that
Yeah.
all wrong, folks. But
Right.
that being
100%.
said,
And yeah, and then and you have these, you have quite a few, because I think it's a transition, and I think there should be like a national program where if you join the service, and you do whatever your MOS is, and you do that, and if you want to transition to the police department, I think that should just be a good funnel in the police departments. And then wherever wherever you want to go in regards to law enforcement, whatever you want in the United States, I think that would be an awesome transition program. Then you just come in, you take the test while you're in the military, you're ready to go,
right,
and then
right,
you
right.
and you just slide in. I think that would solve some of our what do you call it? Recruitment problems.
Right.
Number one. Number two, I think you would get a higher quality of people right out of the box, and you would have people that could talk to them about the benefits and whatever else. Because my dad didn't really take any of his benefits till he was in, I don't know, probably in his late 40s, early 50s.
Right.
And I just think that. Go ahead.
And it's fun. It's funny that you say that, because I was thinking about your dad the other day. I think about him a lot because I think about you guys a lot.
What, did somebody punch you in the face?
No. But what I thought about was, like, your dad was the kind of teacher that, remember when we were kids, you didn't like your teachers. And I'm not saying this to be mean, but in this day and age, you can't possibly imagine saying anything bad about a teacher. Like, I don't like my teachers, and teachers have to be my friends, and I have to constantly be like, my teachers got to constantly be soft and whatever with me. And there was no fear of failing or anything like that. Well, we love the hell out of our teachers. Love our teachers. Our teachers are this. Our teachers are that. They can do whatever they want. But what has that really done for the quality of education in this country?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't, like, as police officers, we can't constantly be like, I need to be your friend. I always have to be your friend. I have to be loved. I have to be liked, whatever. Look, I'm going to do what I need to do, but I have a certain role in society to keep us on track. And when I'm out of control with that, I should be held accountable. But in the same sense, every time I do something, doesn't have anything to do with, like, I've got an ego with authority, or I'm a bigoted, racist, oppressor. It should be, sometimes you don't need to insert yourself in the middle of a situation that a police officer is dealing with, unless that police officer looks like maybe they're dying and you're inclined to do that.
Right.
But the bottom line is like, when I'm dealing with somebody on the side of the road, you don't get out of your car and say, what did that person do? I know that. And you're like, how do you know this person? I don't know that person, but I know that you're doing something wrong. It's like, could you imagine, like, if all we said was, as police officers, we just want to be your friends. We don't want to do anything that holds you accountable for
right.
We would get what we get out of the modern education system.
Yeah.
Nobody respects it. And teachers just go, well, I'm in here getting a check. It doesn't really matter. And talk about
people
that get benefits for life. Educators, they get benefits for life.
Yeah, and I think on that line, though, too, Shaun, I think a lot of people, like, I don't care what anybody says, people in general, mainly children, look for discipline and structure.
Yep.
I'm 57 and I still have discipline and structure in what I do. Like, I do laundry Wednesdays and Sundays. Debbie's like, what are you doing? Laundry. It's Wednesday or Sunday. I mean, it's just, I do that. And I think people not only need it, but they crave it, because that's how they stay in their lane. They stay in the parameters of their life. They don't get in a lot of trouble. And it's easy to swallow some stuff that, yeah, it sucks that I'm not going to do this, but I know if I do that, it's going to be a problem. But in the long run, I have this. Or, when my dad used to go, like that old saying, if your friend jumps off a bridge, are you going to go?
Right,
it's true.
Right,
and if you don't have that structure, and sometimes as policemen or veterans, you have to provide that structure.
Right.
And I think what people, don't, as you get older, those parameters and those structures get probably even worse. But it's something that as veterans that we have to instill on other people. And I just think that people just have to realize that. I really don't think there's a big bridge to cross in between the two. And I think both of them provide some type of structure. I mean, military provides structure in foreign countries as well as here. Somebody steps out of their lane someplace else, they do. We do it on a daily basis. And sometimes it's just Mr. Smith is having a bad day and we have to put him back in his lane. Right. But it's not like we train 15, it's on a daily basis. And I think there's a huge bridge in between the two that can be, that can be used to complement each other.
Yeah. And you know what? I'd really be interested to see how Debbie reacted to the fact that you told her you did laundry twice a week. Did she retreat? Did she retreat from the argument? Like, you took the high ground from her, like you do the moral superiority? Because I'm doing women's work here. Did you say that to her? And she was like, "Well, no, I keep complaining. He's going to make me do it," kind of thing. Is that how it went? No, it wasn't like that at all.
No, it's just like I take care of my own stuff. I just she does hers and cares whenever, whatever. Right. But Wednesdays and Sundays I went because my uniform's got to be squared away, my bag's got to be squared away, my boots got to be squared away, and everything. And she's like, and then like, what was it last week? I think last week that the cleaning lady was coming on Wednesday, so I did my laundry on Tuesday. She's like, "Oh my God, I lost a day. What are you doing?"
Right.
But it's just I just think that form of structure that we instill on a daily basis. I think that is something for us and the military to do. And I really think that with that, there's that old saying that it takes a village. I think that as policemen and as veterans, I think we rear a lot of children just just by structure and just by stature and just by showing up. I think, a lot of people go, I talked to Officer Ferguson the other day, and I don't really know if I want to do that. And you can never count those. You can never count those, but those do exist, and I think those happen on a daily, frequent basis. That's what I think.
Speaking of structure and laundry, I don't fold Carrie's laundry. She's the only woman in the house. Women have clothing that's impossible to fold. You're like, what am I folding here? Like, how do I fold a bra? Your underwear is completely different. Your socks, like, you can't roll them. They're girl socks. You know what I mean? Little socks, big socks, half socks. And then, like, they get some of these blouses without sleeves. I'm like, this is chaos. This is like the Wild West.
I can't even get some of those, like, inside out to outside in. Right. Like that's so. Like, how do you do this?
Little stringy straps and shit. And you're like, where does this go? It's like diffusing a bomb. I mean, leave it alone. Just like you just roll it up in your hands like a fitted sheet and throw it in the drawer. Yeah, I folded your laundry. It's like terrible. I'm like, well,
you got a lot of safety things on there. I don't know.
The military taught me to fold my laundry. Right. I've been folding laundry more than probably anybody in my family's history, maybe other than my mom. But
you got 3 creases in your underwear.
Yeah, like the pleats and the stuff and everything. I just you handle your stuff. And then the other thing is, like, you take it out of the dryer. You know how you take your shit out of the dryer? You just throw it in the laundry basket to get it to where it needs to go next, like in the logistics chain. Like, you can't do that with women's clothes. Then it's all wrinkly. And then they got to iron, and they don't want to do that either. It's just like, I'll iron it. Show me how to do it, but it's impossible. So I've checked out on that.
That's why I take care of my own. I know when it goes buzz, I got to go hang my stuff, good to go. Yeah. But that other stuff, you're on your own.
Good. Yeah,
I can't do it.
Yeah. It just and the fact that we wear uniforms all the time doesn't really help us with fashion either. So like, it's so much better. What are you buying that for? I'm not going to wear that.
Everything is like, if you go in my closet, I think everything is black, gray, or green. And anything that's on the left that's like a pink or a blue or Debbie obviously bought those for me.
Right.
Right. So no, I
just got like a T-shirt from when the Sox won the World Series in 2005. I'm like, when are you getting rid of this? I don't know. It's only 20 years old. What are you talking about?
Right. It's funny you mention it because Christina, my oldest one, she still wears the our class sweatshirt. She still has it. She wears it to bed. It's like shredded. Like,
yeah, right. She can't let it go. It's my daddy.
Anyway, well, this is going to be the show. We won't have one on Friday. We're just going to put something out real quick on that Friday. Well, we're not even going to put anything on that Friday because everybody's going to be traveling or whatever. So it'll be a couple of weeks. So in the meantime, thank you everybody for a awesome 4 years. We're at about 13 to 14,000 downloads a week, and we really want to thank you for getting the word out there for us and helping us out. Yeah, that's awesome. Please keep it going. For the mere fact of the more downloads that we get, we could probably start getting some sponsors, and we can probably start doing a lot more content for you, a lot more layout, and get you out a lot more information. And in the meantime, have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for listening. Please, if you have a question, comment, concern, question for, or want to be a guest, have a suggestion for a guest, please email us at 3copstalk@gmail.com, or you can go to 3copstalk.com, get old shows, and you can leave us the email there. Also get old shows. Otherwise, have a great Thanksgiving, and thank you so much for blessing us, and you have a blessed week.
Peace.